Okay. Let's see, we have everybody in here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Again, good afternoon, everybody. We have Dr. Brock. She's gonna present her presentation, something in regards to music education. I think this will be good for the students, our program, simply because we do not have anything at the campus currently right now that specifies in, anything as far as a major in music education. And I believe currently we have one student who's very interested, to my knowledge, is going as far as going into the teaching field, public school system rather. So I think this would be good. And without further ado, Ms. Dr. Brock, can you just give us a brief introduction of your background and what have you done in your career, and then you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. I'm truly honored for this opportunity. My name is Tamisha Price Brock. I am the owner and CEO of Prodigious Music Concepts, LLC. I have 17 years of experience in music education. I've taught on the K-12 level for 8 years. I'm on the K-12 level now, teaching at an international baccalaureate school out here in Las Vegas. I also spent 8 years in higher education. I was the band director at Elizabeth City State University. I was the associate band director at Mississippi Valley State University. And of course, I was the first female band director at Clark Atlanta University and in the SIAC conference. So I've had, a good run, and I finished, of course, before I came here. I was at the University of Mount Olive in North Carolina. So I've had a good run so far as a band director and music educator, but of course I took this position out here so I could spend time building my company and really helping people in music education, helping people get through their degree programs, helping get teachers certified, especially teachers of color, and definitely promoting professional development, relevant professional development in the field of music, which is very rare across the country. So again, it's an honor to be here. I'm affiliated with so many different organizations. I can't name them all, but of course, Sigma Gamma Rho, Tau Beta Sigma, Kappa Kappa Psi, Sigma Alpha Iota, and Tupa Phi Tupa Brass Fellowship Incorporated, just to name a few. But I try to stay active, and I try to always advocate for music and music education. And I try to advocate for students of color making it to their desired career path, whatever your concentration is. So again, thank you for being here. And indulging me for this hour. I believe this is how long the session is. My session today is on simply music education, talking about the field. I know you don't offer music education at Allen University right now, but I want to talk about the importance of music education and how you can incorporate some of these principles into your current degree programs, or even if you're not a music major, into what you're doing in the field of music to help further your career and help get you through school successfully. So I'm going to share my screen. And at the end, there'll be a brief question and answer thing. So you can ask me whatever you like about music education or about my career or about your goals going into your career. Okay, so we're going to take a closer look at music education today. And by the end of this session, you will know how a little bit more about music ed and the degree program, in music education. Understand what I call a holistic approach to musicianship and the music degree program. We'll be able to survey a few careers in music beyond what you may already be familiar with. We'll explore graduate school and military opportunities, which is definitely a conversation we don't often have with people of color. Is you can go into the military and make a living and a career in music and do very well. And explore and create ways to incorporate these music education principles into the music degree programs offered at Allen University, and how to incorporate these same principles into your own individual and group performance and training. So what is music education? Of course, the internet says a whole bunch of things. Technically, it is a field of practice in which educators are trained for careers on the elementary, secondary, or college level. but it is also a research area in which we do original research on ways to expand and enhance teaching and learning music. From a performance perspective, of course, music education refers to being able to help develop your ability to understand and process sound, rhythm, patterns, relationship between sounds, and the ability to process rhymes and other auditory information. So basically teaching you how to play, receive, and interpret music. The foundational knowledge, of course, music education gives you that foundation of knowledge in a variety of areas: music history, theory, and performance pedagogies, which means like woodwinds class, brass winds class, strings class, percussion class, and then instructional techniques and pedagogy. So if you had a degree in music education, you would spend your time taking courses in theory to learn about the structure and form of music. You would take courses in music history to learn about the backstory of the history of music throughout the various genres and eras, and to learn about why certain literature was written the way it was written, and compositional styles of some of the composers of the music that you play in percussion ensemble, concert band, and marching band. And then, of course, performance pedagogies, you're learning how to play instruments outside of your primary instrument, but you're also supposed to learn how to teach those instruments to a variety of people, be it children or be it young adults or the college level student. Then, of course, you finish your junior and senior year with instructional techniques and pedagogy. So you learn anything from connecting reading, how to create a lesson plan, how to manage a classroom, how to create tests, and how to analyze those tests as well. So that is the gist of the music education degree program. I have always said music education is one of the most difficult degree programs, one of the most challenging degree programs at any institution. It is a professional degree program, so it is ranked right up there with biology pre-med and chemistry pre-med and things like that. It is a professional degree program. Typically, the degree you receive would be called a Bachelor of Music degree. However, many schools call it Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science degrees in music. But music education helps you to make connections with music literature, which is like the music that you play, and in ensemble settings. It helps you understand why you have to play certain things a certain way in marching band, as opposed to concert band, as opposed to small percussion ensemble, versus what you do in your applied lessons. So understanding music education helps with that, okay? But music education also can help prepare you for a host of professional opportunities in music, regardless of your degree path. So even if you are a business major or a music industry major, music education courses can help you to prepare to be successful in that career field. And it can just strengthen your knowledge of just music in general, which makes you more marketable and competitive, which is very important. You're at Allen University. You may have a school population of 500. You may have a music department of 50 to 100 people. But when you step out into the career path, you as a percussionist are competing against the percussionists at Benedict, the rest of the percussionists in the state of South Carolina, the Southeastern region, and across the nation. So for one job, you may have 500 applicants going out for that one position. So having a firmer knowledge of music education can help make you more attractive to an employer, and it makes you more competitive. The more you know and the better you are able to articulate it, gives you that job, and it makes me want to hire you over the next person. What does it mean to be a holistic musician? Having a deep knowledge of your instrument and voice, both historical and pedagogical. If you are a percussionist, you need to know the history about percussion instruments, okay? The history of Scotch drums and field drums and things like that, and how they were used, and why we use different size drums for different settings, and why you must use a specific type of mallet to get a specific type of feel or sound out of your drum. So the more you know about your craft, the better you're going to be as a holistic musician. You don't just want to be a drummer, you want to be a total percussionist, which means you need to know how to tune your drum. You need to know where to strike your drum, why it's important to play along the snares. Keep in mind, I'm a clarinet player, but it's very important that I know that knowledge too, so that I can pass that on to my students, okay? So having that knowledge of your instrument and being a holistic musician is just gonna make you a little bit better. It's gonna make you perform better, because that lets you know which drum you should set up on stage for your solo recital versus which drum you should set up in the band room for this particular concert band number. You might have to go and get a field drum that day as opposed to a regular marching snare, okay? Knowledge of characteristic styles or sounds and preferences for your instrument. Again, like I said, you have to know if you're playing Bach versus if you're playing Drake, you got to know what you're supposed to, what you're supposed to sound like and what the characteristic style of that era was. If you're playing a piece from the Baroque period, you cannot play it in the same manner as you're playing a piece from the 20th century. So you just have to have some knowledge, and music education helps with that. Knowledge of performance interpretation and literature based on the era, composer, instrument that you're using, knowing how to play the tam-tam, okay? Knowing how to play the various gongs is very important. Knowing where to strike the marimba. You strike the lower level of the marimba a little bit in a different area than you strike the upper row of the marimba. Just knowing how to pull the sound out of the instrument. And then the performance setting or occasion. You have to be able to understand how to set up and how to interpret and strike your instrument for a performance in the gymnasium versus a performance in the music studio versus a performance in the cafeteria. Okay, so just knowledge of that, being a holistic musician helps with that. And then the ability to make connections between courses and content and connections with the selection of solo and ensemble literature. This is important because a lot of times we'll go to our general ed classes, the ones we don't want to go to, and we don't understand why it's important to pay attention to those classes. We don't see what that has to do with our degree program. Why do we have to take math? Why do we have to take English? Why do I have to take oral skills? I don't like singing. I'm a drummer. I'm a percussionist. Why do I have to take theory? I just want to play. But being a holistic musician, it helps you to make those connections as to why math is important to pass into practice later. Why theory is important to understanding how to subdivide in 7/8 time. Okay, so that's what holistic music education looks like. Content mastery. Even as a performance or business or music industry major, it is important to master the content in or have access to content in music history, theory and composition, instrumental and vocal methods courses, and ensembles and applied instruction. So even if you do not offer music education at Allen University, I would highly encourage you all to incorporate music history units into your applied lessons or into your business courses and make a connection between the history of music production instruments. Like, we didn't have Pro Tools back in the medieval period, but you have to try to make some type of connection so that you have a stronger ability to master content as you progress through your program. Just understanding, like Percy Granger, he didn't have Pro Tools, but he was able to go out and record folk music on, I guess it was a phonograph that he used. You have to understand how the phonograph led to your soundboards that you have today. Music education helps to promote content mastery when integrated throughout the curriculum, which means you need to be incorporating theory. You need to be teaching people how to teach these percussion instruments or teaching people how to tune the instruments and how to relay that to someone else. Even in your applied lessons or ensemble classes, use everything as a teachable moment to integrate music education and music education techniques. We should always be critically thinking about what we're doing in our intro to music business classes, in our sound and recording classes, if you're taking those classes. Scaffolding, always taking things back to the basics and showing how we connect things from point A to point B. So even though you don't offer music education, you can still train your students in music education concepts, especially for those of you who may have a desire, an inkling of a desire that you might want to teach when you get out of school as your primary goal, or, sad to say, I don't consider it a fallback, but some people say, hey, if I can't get onto this performance thing right now, I'll go ahead and teach for a couple of years, to kind of support my income and support my household while I'm trying to get my performance gigs going. Strengthening musicianship. Concepts of music education can make you a better player, point blank. If you know more about the music you're playing, and if you know how to properly warm up, how to properly cool down, and how to really correct your own performance errors, it's going to make you that much more competitive and that much stronger of a musician and a leader. The concept of lesson planning is important for those of you who run sectionals, whether it's for the pep band or marching band. If you're running sectionals, having a plan and knowing how to put a plan together and follow that plan will save you from wasting time. It'll save arguments from rising in your sectionals. It'll save people from just standing around and not doing anything, and it will help you to flow through rehearsal. You don't ever want people coming into your drumline practice to saying, what are we doing now? Or what do we do now? Just standing there. If you already have a plan and you send it out to all the members in the section, then they can already know what's expected of them when they come to practice. They're going to already get their drums and they're going to already be locked in that attention by the time you're ready to start and give your downbeat for your 8 on hand, your double beat warm up, or whatever you're doing. They're going to already be ready to go because you as a leader already have a plan for what you want to accomplish. Not only does planning help make your rehearsals and sessions more efficient, but it allows you to already know that if something goes wrong in your cadence or something goes wrong in your warm-up, you already have a mindset of how you're going to fix it. So lesson planning helps to take the stress off of you and off of your section. Being able to restate concepts in your own words. When you're running sectionals, use that as a music education moment. Have someone else in your section restate what you just said or explain it in their own words what you want them to do. Explain what the double beat is. Explain how many beats, how to subdivide it. If you're able to restate concepts in your own words and not just read it out of a book, you're going to strengthen your musicianship and your awareness so that when you go to play it, before you even make a mistake, you can hear or anticipate you're about to make that mistake and you can correct from it. The art of descriptive feedback is also essential for your professors. So instead of just saying, no, that's wrong, or do this wrong, or you need to do that over, or spend more time practicing, the more we're descriptive and saying, hey, in measure 2, you put an accent on beat 2 when it was supposed to be on beat 1. Or in measure 3, you played a triplet pattern when it's supposed to be a dotted eighth followed by a 16th. The more descriptive feedback you can give in your sectionals and in your applied lessons in your classes, the better it's going to be. If you're in business classes, hey, you're supposed to synthesize or put this here, but you kind of slid it up here in this voice, or this voice is too high, it should be here. This is the correct range. Don't just tell someone that they're doing something wrong. Be able to explain to them how to correct it or the steps they should take to correct it, and it's going to stick a lot better. So again, that's a music education concept. Matriculation and application. Knowing what's expected of you and incorporating elements of music ed into your performance and business studies makes your journey through your degree program more relevant and more applicable to the real world upon graduation. I'm sure everyone's had that moment as to when am I going to see this information again, and what does this have to do with me trying to go into the field? I just want to make beats. Well, I just want to go out and, and scout, be an A&R. What does this have to do with what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to open my own studio. Or for those of you who are lyricists, I'm just trying to get my career going. What does this have to do with me? So if you know what's expected of you and can incorporate these elements into your performance, I guarantee you're going to have a much better experience in your degree program, and you're going to be ready for your career when you graduate. You're not going to be guessing, well, what now? Or you're not going to have that worry about what are you supposed to do with your degree. You're going to already know how this can help you. And then, of course, it helps you to prepare immediately to apply those concepts learned either in your job hunt or your career force upon graduation. Knowing how to prepare for an audition or put together a portfolio is important. And then the key thing that nobody tells you, I'm going to tell you today, is that unless you're a music education major, you're self-employed when you graduate from Allen University. If you're majoring right now in performance, business, industry, sound and recording technology, you are on your own when you graduate. The only field that guarantees that your employer will match your health benefits right now is music education. When you go and get a teaching job, your employer will help pay half or pay 75% of your health insurance, your retirement benefits, and things like that. If you are in performance, business, music industry, music engineering, when you graduate, you're responsible for your own health insurance. You're responsible for setting up your own retirement plan. You're responsible for finding your own gigs. You're responsible for making sure your taxes are paid. You don't have someone automatically pulling for FICA and your federal and state taxes. You have to make sure you stay on top of that as those majors. So knowing how to prepare for that and knowing and giving that knowledge through music education before these students graduate will help to make them a better student and better prepared to start their career journey and start their life successfully without ending up in a whole lot of debt and burn out their first year out of school. That's extremely important. What can you do with your music degree? I'm studying music industry. What can I do with it? Music is more than just teaching and performing. These are just a few. There are over 100 careers in music that you can do. Of course, you can teach or you can go into research, okay? I'm a teacher, but I'm also leaning more towards research now. That's the area that I chose. I knew that once I finished my 4 years, I knew that I didn't want my clarinet to pay for my career, for my life. I still play, but I definitely can't handle the stress of what performers go through having to use my instrument to, to take care of my career. But as a performer, you can be an individual performer, with your own gig, your own CDs and stuff, or you can perform with community bands or symphony orchestras and things like that. As a percussionist, I can tell you right now, there is a rarity, there's a shortage of people of color as percussionists in these larger ensembles, and they pay well. We just have to get into them. Music administration, you might want to be a department chair one day. You might want to be a dean. You may want to be a music business owner. That is a field you can go into. You can see all of the jobs here in the music industry outside of just business and engineering. You can go into marketing. Okay, so open your own advertising store. You can open something like Music and Arts or Guitar Center. You can be a talent scout like an A&R. You can actually go into management. Law, music law. Of course, you know, a lot of times that's a big industry. That's $1 billion industry, especially when you're talking about people sampling other people's work and things like that. You can definitely go in and be a music lawyer and definitely be successful. Music librarian, while that sounds very boring, you'd be surprised that the librarians for the Virginia Symphony, for the South Carolina Symphony, for the New York Philharmonic, those librarians are getting paid. And what do? They manage all of the music in the library. They make sure that all the archives of all the concert programs are kept up, and they give all the historical data about that particular organization. That is a very lucrative industry that we really are not, we're very underrepresented in as people of color, but it pays very well with excellent benefits. And of course, you get free concerts all the time because you work for the symphony. Of course, the TV and film industry, that's anything from playing in the studio orchestras to writing film scores for your TV shows, your commercials, your movies, and things like that. Look at the people of color now who are writing for like movies like Pitch Perfect, and who wrote for Black Panther, who wrote for One Night in Miami and things like that. Look at those types of people, and that's something that could be attainable in music. Production houses, like Tyler Perry Studios and things like that. Advertisement companies, all of your commercials, all your car commercials, they need jingles and they need people to play those jingles. Okay, so that's a career area as well. Amusement parks in the travel industry, you're talking about cruise ships. I have one of my former students now is a DJ on a cruise ship for Carnival Cruises and gets paid very well. And he was a music business major. You have, like I said, all of your TV commercials, your car commercials, especially Kia and Honda and things like that. They're always looking for people to provide jingles for them and to play for them. The gaming industry, all of your video game soundtracks, it could be you producing the music for those soundtracks. You have the medical field, and we talk about music therapy, and that's great, but we don't often talk about occupational health. And we talk about musicians' injuries. Percussionists get injured all the time. You end up with carpal tunnel syndrome because look at it, percussionists play 90% of the time out of performance. When the band is marching, you're playing. When the band is resting, you're playing. And a lot of times those cramps and things, that can lead to injury. That is a very lucrative field for percussionists, piano players. You see injuries all the time. I know me, I'm a clarinet player. I had a torn UCL in my thumb. That is a musician's injury. So there's a lucrative career field for that as well. And then of course, music composition. If you're into writing and arranging, that's always a field that can always make money for you, especially when you're commissioned to do a work for a big orchestra or for the Olympics or something like that, or for the presidential inauguration, like Adolphus Hailstork, very famous composer out of Virginia. He wrote the fanfare for this year's inauguration. Grad school opportunities, you can see all the majors there. Most people think you can only go to grad school to major in educational performance, but again, you see everything from music therapy down to musicology and ethnomusicology. Musicology and ethnomusicology is just simply the study of music of different cultures. Ethnomusicology means you're looking at world cultures, okay, like Jamaica, the history of Peru and things like that, the history of Canada music, the Geechee music, okay, the Gullah Island music, all of that is ethnomusicology. And then of course you see the other majors there. And a copy of this slide presentation has been shared with Professor Milford, so he can send that to you as well. The military, every branch of the military has a prominent band, whether it's a local band for your unit or whether it's one of the ones that plays at the White House. So you can perform in the military. One thing I love about the military band is no matter what, you get a brand new instrument every 2 years. Even if there's nothing wrong with your instrument, they give you a brand new instrument every 2 years because they want to keep you current and keep you up to date, because that is your weapon. You still have to go through basic training. You still have to learn how to fire a weapon. But at the end of the day, you get paid 12 hours a day to play music. Okay. And then, of course, if you want to study a little bit further, they do have the U.S. Armed Forces School of Music in Norfolk, Virginia, where a lot of your prominent conductors and composers have attended that school at one point or the other. One of my favorite military bands, of course, is the President's Own, which is the Marine Band in Washington, D.C. The auditions for percussionists, I will tell you, if you do not have jazz band experience, get some. And then Professor Milford, for the military, a lot of times they want to see, they'll give you a booklet of things to audition with. They want to see that you can play samba. They want to see that you can play reggae. They want to see that you can play salsa, funk, pop, rock, country, all of it, house beat and things like that. So you have to be able to play in a variety of styles to play drum set and to play the other things in their orchestra as well. But many of these bands have the jazz band setting and they want to see that you can be versatile. So it's very important to kind of expose them to all of this style of music before they graduate from Allen. How can I transform and enhance my experience? So how can I get you ready for your career? In the chat box, if you can put, we're going to talk about your target in a little bit. Think about for a moment, what do you really want to do? Why are you majoring in music? Why are you studying percussion? What is it you really want to do as a career? And where do you want to be? Do you want to stay in South Carolina? Are you originally from South Carolina? If you don't want to stay, where do you want to go? And then what is your desired salary? You know, we often think about careers, but not often do we spend time really thinking about how much we want to make a year. I know I told myself I wanted to make 6 figures a year, and I didn't want to stop until I got to 6 figures a year. I can tell you, if you're looking at teaching and you come out to Las Vegas, for example, or you go to Seattle, I taught in Seattle for a year too, the starting salary is like $40,000 to $50,000. And most of the teachers out here are making 6 figures a year as a public school teacher. So that's very attainable. Whereas you go some places like North Carolina and they may only be paying $33,000 a year or $38,000 a year. That same first year teacher in Seattle is making $60,000 a year. So you have to ask yourself, what is your desired salary? What do you want to do with your degree? And where are you trying to go? And so I'll get a chance to look at your answers in a moment. And then I want you to think about what type of student or musician are you? This is the time when we turn the mirror, we turn the camera on ourselves, we start looking at pointing inward. What is your practice schedule like? Do you only practice when you have practice, or are you compelled to practice outside of practice? How is your attendance in class? Do you go to class? Are you skipping classes? Are you in a funk? Sometimes, you know, and I think professors, we're a little too hard on our students sometimes. It's okay to be human. Sometimes you just don't feel like it. And I think we need to embrace that, and we need to understand that sometimes our students have external factors outside the classroom where you may be going through something and that class that day is the last thing on your mind. Instead of shunning that and beating you down for that, we need to embrace that and we need to support that, because I think if we show you that we understand, because we're human too, especially in the light of this pandemic, I think we're going to get more students to engage with us instead of shutting completely down. Yes, there are some days I don't feel like grading anything. I was on spring break last week. I didn't do not one lesson plan. I didn't do one activity, didn't answer one email except my family email. And sometimes you get to that point. So and I want people to know it's okay. It's human, it's natural to not feel like getting up that day, to not feel like going to class. But what are you going to do after that feeling subsides? You still have to do the work. You still have to communicate with that professor. Whatever your lame excuse is for that day, whatever you decide to come up with for that day, you have to decide, okay, we did that, we're past that. What do I do now to make sure I catch up? So think about your attendance. Then what do your academics look like? Are you an A student, a B student, a C student, or a Lord help me student? You got to decide what your academics look like. But there's always hope. One thing I always used to tell my students, and I still tell my students to this day, regardless of what your semester looked like, every semester you start with a 4.0. Every semester you start over with a 4.0. It's up to you to maintain it. So I think if we go in with the mentality of maintaining a 4.0 instead of the mentality of having to dig out of a hole, you'll see more GPAs continue to rise and more GPAs stay that way. I'm thinking a lot of times we think, oh man, I got a 1.7 last semester, I got a 2.1 next semester, I'm on academic suspension or probation. Okay, write your letter of appeal, get your plan of action together. That next semester when you come back in, who cares that you were on academic suspension that semester? When you start in August, you're starting in every class with a 4.0, even if it's a class that you're repeating. So I think if we think with that mentality, we're going to have more success. Then think about your challenges. A lot of the times we throw you into these music classes and we don't realize that your deficiencies in music may not be any fault of your own. You may have come from a program where you had a revolving door of band directors and you had a new band director every year. Or you may have decided that the light bulb came on because you may have played sports and you may not have joined band until 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, but you have a true desire that this is what you want to do. So we have to identify what your challenges are, meet those challenges, and be able to, help you overcome those. Then what does your mentorship look like? How well do you work with others? Are you often willing to help other people learn what you know? Do you spend your time practicing teaching other people? Do you give back to your high school or your middle school? Do you go back and help your line at your high school, middle school learn the things that you've learned? Do you teach private lessons yourself? If not, this may be something you might want to start, because the more you can teach other people, the practice of teaching is ingrained in you, and the better practice you're going to have when you actually go into the career field. Even if you're in music business and things like that, what are you sharing with people who are coming up after you to kind of help refine your skills, but also help generate interest in others? And then your leadership. What type of leader are you? Are you approachable? Are you a team player? Are you one that understands that even though you're a leader, you don't know everything and you still have to seek out knowledge? Or are you one that's hard to get along with and can't nobody tell you anything? If you can't be taught, if you're unteachable, it's not only going to affect you at Allen University, it's going to affect you in your career, because you're going to be the one that your resume is going to be padded, but it's not because you're talented, it's because you keep bouncing from job to job to job, which doesn't look good. So you have to ask yourself those hard questions. And it may sound harsh, but we're past we're going to hold your hand and it's going to be all right, and we're going to sing a little kumbaya with you. We have to be real with you, because I think we've been too pacifying in the past, and I think that's been detrimental to our culture. We got to really bring it to you the way it is. We got to teach you exactly what you need to know, and we got to be willing to get past ourselves and tell you the harsh truths in order for you to get where you need to be, and to break this cycle of not knowing or not having the information, because people are too afraid to tell you what you really need to hear. And then what's in your professional toolbox? For performance majors, I'll help walk you through this, and I'll send Professor Milford some worksheets or for things for you to build your professional toolbox. But regardless of your major, you need to prepare now for your career, okay? So you should have a resume by junior year. Okay, a resume is just like a one pager of your education, jobs you've had that are relevant to your career, and any special skills that you may have, any honors that you may have been recognized for that could be beneficial into selecting you for the position, and then your references. Who can we call to vouch for you and say that you are of good character and that you have the ability and the skill set to do the job that you're trying to do? Okay, a CV is a curriculum vitae. It's more extensive resume. It tells you everything. It's like your life history of everything you've ever done professionally in the realm of music for whatever job you're going out for. So what I'll do is I'll send Professor Milford some samples of what resumes look like and what CVs look like, so you will have these as resources. I would suggest you keep these in a 3-ring binder to have like ongoing resources that you can use later on. You should have a headshot. You don't have to already be in the field to have a professional headshot. We all like to take pictures. Get you a good image, a good picture that you think would look good on the application or resume. That's your professional headshot. I know you know some photography majors, either there or at Benedict, that can take your picture for you and give you a good headshot or a good photo that will look good. So when you give your resume, you're also giving people an image of you and what you look like. Get you a website set up. We're all tech savvy, even if it's on Wix.com, a free website that has your headshot, your information, a little bit about your skills and abilities. Your references. Start now generating a list of professors, friends, former supervisors, if you have a part-time job, that can vouch for you and your good character on a job application. Most applications require 3 references. I encourage you to have 7. Okay, it's something about the power of 7, that if you have 7, because if you only have 3 references and someone procrastinates on getting your letter out, that can cost you a job. But if you have 7, you're almost guaranteed to get the 3 references you need whenever you need it. Then create a bio sketch. Tell your story. Do a little 1-pager or 2-pager about who you are, where you're from, what degree you have or what degree you're seeking, any skills you have, and any experiences that you've had that are relevant to the job. Okay. So write a bio sketch, a short biography about you and what's unique about you. And then the cover letter is something that you'll do with the application. It's just stating that I'm interested in this position. This is why I'm a good candidate. These are all the things I know how to do, and this is why you should hire me. Okay, so I'll send a sample of what a cover letter looks like as well. And then a personal statement. That's very important for grad school applications and job applications. A personal statement talks about you as a person, why you pursued the career, your major, and why you're looking for the career you are. What does it mean to you? Like, I want to do music because music has always been a passion of mine. I love working with children. And then if you're going to grad school, why going to that grad school is going to benefit your career? How is going to that grad school going to make you a better person academically and personally or professionally? That goes into your personal statement. Philosophy statement. How do you feel about music? Why do you feel music is important? And if you're trying to teach kids, what is your view about all kids being able to learn music? Okay, why do you feel kids need to know music? And what can we expect to see if we were taking music in your classroom? That's what a philosophy statement is. And then, of course, like I said, create a short website about yourself, especially my business majors, my industry majors. We need to see a website that includes samples of your work. So if you've remastered some tracks or something, you need to be able to have that in some type of media gallery so we can click on that link and go listen to your skills and see what you're able to do. It's one thing to say you can do something, but to be able to hear the product of what you've actually put together as a junior project or a senior project will give us a better understanding of what you can really handle. Same thing with performance majors. If you're getting ready to go to grad school, the military, or the career force, and you want to get that gig as a professional performer, you're trying out for that professional symphony, you're trying out to be a background player for Fantasia or TLC. One of my former classmates is a saxophone player for Fantasia, is a saxophone player. He's played with TLC. And in order for him to do that, he created a website of performances he did around town. And I'm gonna be honest with you, we have to be humble sometimes and take the free opportunities first, because the free opportunities, while you may not be getting paid for it, you're getting paid for it and people getting your name out there. And it leads to other opportunities, which leads to other paid opportunities later on. So go ahead and play around campus. I would set up a demonstration right on the courtyard and demonstrate your skills, almost like the players that play on the sidewalk for money. You don't have to do that unless you want to, but get out there and demonstrate your skills for the student body. You'd be surprised how music can help lift spirits, especially in the pandemic. Administration will come by and then they'll associate with you. Hey, aren't you that percussionist? Aren't you this? Or I didn't see you playing today in your spot. What's going on? So get out there and play. You'll find that you'll start to get invitations to play more places. So it's not always about the money, more so than the experience and the opportunity to set you up for success later. When you do your portfolio, we're in the digital age now. It should be in both digital form, save it on your Google Drive, your box, or your cloud, and it should also be in hard copy form. At all times, you should have a binder with your portfolio documents in it. Whenever you go to a career fair, always have about 10 copies of your resume, always have about 10 copies of your reference sheets and things like that, because you want to give employers or potential employers tangible items they can take with them so that they don't just forget you once they unplug their documents and fold up for the day. Your document should be on high quality paper, not just that standard cheap printer paper we get from Walmart. You should really go and get like 22, 24-pound paper. It can be matte or gloss, it doesn't matter, but take pride in what you put your portfolio documents on. The more pride you have, it's just as simple as ironing your clothes in the morning. Ironing your clothes says you care. You care about who you are, you care about your image, you care about your career. So doing something as simple as ironing your clothes or putting your documents on high quality paper lets them know how much attention to detail you're actually going to play in the field. And then understand that your portfolio is always going to be a working document. You're always updating your portfolio as your experience expands. You're always updating your resume. Even though I have a position right now, my resume stays ready. My CV stays ready, my cover letters stay ready, because you never know where, in my instance, where God is going to take you. So you definitely want to make sure that you understand it's a working document, and the way you feel now, you may have a totally different view about it 10 years from now. So that's very important. All right, we're going to ready to go back to what's your target, because I'm going to turn this into an interactive session for the last portion, and I want to hear from you. But Like I said, preparing your junior and senior year, I just want you to be able to search for, and these are things I'll send you, being able to search for what you should be doing your junior and senior year to prepare. Record everything. Your junior and senior recitals, you want to make sure that they are of the quality and that you've prepared enough so that you can use those same performances as your grad school entrance performance, as your grad school audition, as your military audition, as your portfolio proof to go into to get your teaching job. They want to say, well, what can you do? Always have a mini lesson prepared, and then always have a demonstration prepared showcasing your musicianship skills. And Professor Milford, for the faculty, one thing I'm suggesting nationwide, especially at our HBCUs, we need to do a better job tracking and supporting our graduates. Our graduates graduate and they get out in the field and we just say, hey, if we see them, we don't always provide the support in their first 3 years in the field, whether they're teaching or performing, to say, hey, how are you doing? Can I help you with anything? How's grad school going? And we don't realize that it's the first 3 years out of school that they get into burnout, they get into high debt, and many of them face anxiety and depression because they feel lost and they feel like, oh, well, we got what we needed from them, so they're on their own. So we need to do a better job of tracking our graduates and providing at least a 3-year support system for them to continue to receive resources from us and for us to continue to help them until they're on their feet in their career. So this is something I'm suggesting nationwide, and I'll be developing this further over the summer. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to open my chat box. I see the chat box has been busy, and I like that you've put a lot of your goals in here. So if you have not answered, go ahead and put in the chat what your target is. And I hope you all don't mind me highlighting some of these. I won't say your names for those of you who send it to me privately. I'll just talk about it. So someone said they want to create jingles and soundtracks for movies, games, and commercials. And the minimum salary I want to obtain is $92,000 to $95,000 a year. Right on. I can hear that. Have you all noticed, either since the pandemic started or even since President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have been in office, pay attention to your commercials. When you start listening to commercials, 90% of the commercials now are all rap artists commercials. You had tag team or all Black music or music of color. Start paying attention to your car commercials, your laundry commercials and things. 90% of the commercial jingles now and the soundtracks are of Black music. They even, of course, they started with MC Hammer at the Super Bowl last year, but more and more they've had, Black Box, Everybody Dance Now. You've had other songs that come up. You've had rap songs come up. So pay attention to that. I want to be a percussion instructor in South Carolina because a lot of schools that don't have presentable percussion sections, whether it's marching, concert, or even world percussion. I agree with you there. You could definitely change the world. I served as the band director at Timmonsville High School for 2 years, back in, 2007 to 2009. And I agree, it was dismal and just throughout the state as far as like the consistency in percussion competitions. You get there and after a while, you just don't want to hear no more, because it's like they're not, the people who were leading the percussion sections didn't know anything about percussion. And so it was just all sorts of bad. But there's a lot of potential in that state, a whole lot of potential for that. What is your biggest challenge when starting in the field of music education? The biggest challenge is one, knowing where the jobs are, knowing how to go into the interview. A lot of times as a first-year teacher, we make the mistake of feeling like we're not experienced enough to negotiate, whether it's negotiating our salary, negotiating what we need in our first year. So we just take what they give us. I remember taking a job and they wouldn't show me the band room at the school. And I was wondering why. And I knew the school because I grew up in the area. But when I finally signed my contract and walked into the school, we had a bunch of instrument cases, looked in, and either a lot of the instruments were missing or a lot of instruments hadn't been replaced since the 70s. And so definitely some of the biggest challenges is knowing how to present your vision to your administration and knowing how to negotiate for what you need for your program. We go in and we think we're going to have this big entourage of auxiliary coordinators and percussion coordinators and all this staff. We want a staff of 20 people, and we don't realize that a lot of times we're doing it ourselves. And even though you're an instrumentalist, you may be required to teach choir. You may be required to teach orchestra, guitar, or piano. And so knowing that before you go in, knowing how to, I think the biggest thing to wrap this up is, remember when you're going into an interview, they're not only interviewing you, you should be interviewing them. You need to learn about the community. You need to learn about the school. You need to learn about the vision of the administration. What is it they're expecting? Because sometimes they just want to hire a music instructor, but they know nothing about what it takes to run a music program, or they don't have a background in music, and they're interviewing you off the same questions they would use for a math teacher, and they don't really know how to interview for a music teacher. So those are some things I could provide some extra supports for if you're interested in going into music education. My contact information will be presented shortly. When did you release music as what you wanted? Oh, when did you realize music is what you wanted to do? I knew at an early age. I come from a long line of musicians and band directors. My cousin was my middle school band director. She went on to teach high school later on. I have another cousin who was the band director at Bethune-Cookman University, Donovan Wells. And so music has been in my family, either in choir, gospel quartets, or instrumental music. But I didn't always want to be a music educator. I wanted to be a bone specialist and an orthopedic surgeon. So I knew either I was going to go into music or medicine. But I felt that I could do more of a service through music. So I knew early on. I've been playing clarinet since I was 9, and I'm almost 40 now. So it's been quite a while. How did you deal with students who didn't practice? It's tough, but I think keeping it engaging for students who don't practice, especially when you're a section leader, like college section leaders, and you got people who don't practice and don't want to practice, showing them your passion, showing them your love. And a lot of times come in and you set the standard. So you come in and you practice every day. Don't have to say anything, just come in and just start the standard, just start practicing. Get with someone else in your section and challenge them. I bet you I can play this passage better than you. I bet you I can play it faster than you. I bet you, and then the people who don't want to practice, they're gonna feel like the people that's left out. They'll be watching, act like they're not interested, but then they want to get in on the action too. So you motivate people by doing. You motivate people by engagement. The more they see you loving your craft and loving what you're doing, they're going to want to do it too, because they're not going to be left out. So I would encourage you to kind of like demonstrate through your instrument and get other people, challenge other people in your section. And I think the more you do friendly challenges and friendly competitions, you'll get past those students who don't practice or don't like to practice. On the K-12 level, it's all about setting your expectations high, and again, doing those classroom demonstrations, because they want to be just like you. Rising senior, trying to figure out where a good master's program is for teaching music in the East Coast region, and what's something I'm thankful when looking for schools interested in teaching band and percussion. So if you're looking for grad programs, costs, tuition, and if you're trying to teach and work at the same time, look for a program that offers flexibility in classes. Either all the classes are in the evenings, or they offer a mixture of where some of the classes you can take online and in face-to-face. Some of the strongest master's programs on the East Coast, if you're looking at staying at a HBCU, are Tennessee State University, and where I went to, I got my master's from Norfolk State University. I finished that master's program in 3 semesters. I was working full-time mom and wife, and I finished that program in 3 semesters. I said in and out. One, they won't get too much of my money, and I didn't have time to stay in school longer because I had spent enough time at Virginia State. So I don't think I said at the beginning, I got my bachelor's at Virginia State University and my master's at Norfolk State University. Then I just finished my PhD last year at UNC Greensboro. So I would recommend Tennessee State, Norfolk State University, and Morgan State University. Surprisingly, they have a master's program, but theirs is like the Master of Arts in Teaching, whereas Norfolk and Tennessee State is actually the Masters of Music in Music. And they have more than just music ed. Let's see. I want to live well off from performing. I plan on performing in Army bands, but if not in the military, I want to have annual guaranteed income from traveling and performing. Would like to receive at least $50,000 per year. That is attainable. And yes, the military band, they pay very well. They give good benefits. I will send you some information from the military. My brother is still connected with the military. He works for the Air Force. And then I have a former student who plays in the Air Force band right now as a percussionist. So I'm going to send you his contact information. I'm going to call him as soon as I get off this call, get permission to share his information and link you all up with him. His name is Javon Copeland. But he served as my percussion instructor his last year in school because he was just that strong. And so he definitely went on, and he's actively performing with the Air Force Band in Virginia right now. As a clarinet player, was it easier for you to learn and really understand the different forms of instruments? I had some challenges when it came to strings instruments, mainly because I didn't have a very good teacher, and I didn't get to all the instruments, which is why I do what I do now. Same thing with my percussion instructor. When I took percussion methods, I'm not even gonna talk about that experience, but thankfully now, you know, I have some classmates that I'm connected to now, like Mr. Elijah Powell, who is a percussion instructor at Virginia State University, and then my significant other, who is a professional percussionist and was percussion captain when we were at Virginia State University. So through them, I learned what I learned about percussion. Then I learned from my students too. So their rudiments, once I figured out they were number 16th notes, I said, okay, so I played 16th notes and grace notes on my clarinet. I said, okay, we gonna work this thing out. But I tried to always learn. And so I'll practice with my students as well. So I can play a paradiddle and a flam. So, and I can read some things in stick control, but I'm not good like with coordination with rolls and stuff, but I do know traditional and match grip, American, German, and French grip, stuff like that. But I'm still learning, but it took some time. But the key to it is having a good teacher. And I didn't have very good teachers for my strings methods and my percussion methods, but I learned a lot in brass. I want to make good amount of money from teaching, live a good and financially stable life. Yeah, good goals. I used to take a picture of what I wanted, my house and my car, put it on my refrigerator so that I knew what I was working towards every day. So I would encourage you to do the same because it is highly attainable. Don't ever let anybody tell you that it's not attainable, no matter where you are right now. That's why I asked about your GPAs and things like that. Do not broadcast your GPAs up here because of FERPA, but make sure that you know that for yourself. Even if you have a 1.7 right now or a 2.1 right now, but you know what you want out of life, it's not too late. Even if you are a senior, it's not too late. I know that the school may have their own rules and regulations, but it's never too late to get back on track. Even right now, with probably 3 weeks left in school for you guys, is not too late. Okay, so if you need help, reach out to me. I can show you how to get exactly where you want to be. What do you recommend for students that want to practice but don't always know what to practice when they don't have anything specific to practice? That's almost like telling your parents you're bored and say, well, I got something for you to do, so they make you do chores. So if you're never sure what to practice, do like the pro basketball players do. Go back to the basics, practice your rudiments, the 26 American rudiments, those 40 standard rudiments, and then mess around with those hybrids, and then try to create your own, try to remix some stuff and mash some stuff up. But and then you'll find that some of the techniques that you're using when you do that are some of the same techniques you'll find in your literature. But that literature gets boring after a while, and after a while, you don't want to see that page no more till you see Professor Milford. So what do? Go play covers, put on your favorite soundtrack, and try to, from a theory perspective, try to analyze what rudiments are being used in the soundtrack, what rhythms are being used, what meter is it in. So try to train your brain as you're playing, then try to play to it and try to remix it. So have fun with your practices. When the band is warming up, we don't need to do no more just rolls and stuff and have the percussion standing around while the band is warming up on scales. Tell the drum line or the percussive, give you a beat and put a beat to that thing. So y'all sitting back there grooving while the band is playing the warm-ups and stuff. That's what I did. You'd be surprised how many original compositions come out of you just jamming while the band is playing some warm-ups. Get those paradiddles, those double beats going on. Change up and call out a different rudiment. So we're playing concert F, okay, percussion, play flam accents. That way you're warming up at the same time, okay, that the band is warming up. So if you have nothing else to practice, go back to the basics and practice your dribbling. Practice those rudiments and then change it up. Always create something. You don't have to be a leader to be an arranger. You can arrange something and then say, hey, could we put this together? I challenge all of you to make up something and make a brand new cadence just based off your own creativity. Everybody bring in 8 bars, just like them rappers do. You bring in your 8 bars, put a hook to it. There you go. That's your cadence for next year. Let's see. Oh, we got a lot more comments coming in. I plan on performing and having my own studio. I want to have a 6-figure salary. You're in a good area because you're not far from Georgia. You're not far from, I think there's a studio somewhere in Columbia as well. Start researching studios now. You know, I would say email some of the people that own these studios. Somebody's bound to respond. Ask them what it takes. Ask them, can you have a tour of the studio? Ask them, can you come in and shadow someone, you know, on the boards and stuff? That way you already know what to expect in those fields. We don't often talk enough about, what do you call it? Internship opportunities. I'm sorry, I lost my word there. We don't talk about internships enough. That's a word that we haven't heard in a while. And we need to seek out internships. We need to actively seek out internships for our music majors, because getting into the field should not be the first time that you actually touch this equipment. And you know, the only people who are guaranteed an internship are music majors. It's called student teaching. What are we doing for our performance majors, our business majors? How often have they stepped inside a studio? How often have we put them in a rehearsal with the symphony? Go observe this symphony and see how it goes. Go listen to this group. Go back, ask for a backstage pass to this concert so you can see how the musicians warm up. You don't have to write to the singer, write to the band and ask them, can you sit in on one of their sessions? Can you sit in and listen? Go, if you're of legal age, go to one of the local nightclubs and sit in and listen to the band. You know, don't go there to do all that extracurricular activity, but go there to learn something. But at the end of the day, if you want to reward yourself, go ahead and do that. But drink responsibly. All right. Let's see here. Lots more questions here. Did I play other instruments in college? My secondary instrument was euphonium and flute, but I never really had the opportunity to play it because I was a clarinet section leader. So outside of class, I really didn't play it too much, other than like on a recital or something. We did our 20th century theory recital, but I learned how to play the other instruments, but I spent so much time on clarinet and bass clarinet and then doing the honor band stuff. I didn't really have a lot of time being section leader. I think I was kind of exploited for my talent. So we'll see what happens. But I didn't get a lot of free time to do anything else. Do they only offer masters in music at Norfolk? And if so, could I teach with just the masters of music from Norfolk? The masters of music at Norfolk is music education, music theory and composition, and music performance. So you could take any of those 3 degree tracks. Yes, you can teach with a master. So if you're a performance major and go get your master's in education or master's of arts in teaching, yes, you can teach. You can teach on K-12 level. And honestly, with a master's degree, you can teach on the college level. Once you complete 18 credit hours towards your master's degree, you can actually start adjunct teaching at a community college. All you need is 18 hours towards your master's degree in the field that you're trying to get certified in, and you can start teaching at a community college. If you're looking for a part-time job right now, but don't want to work at McDonald's or anything like that, you can actually substitute teaching your local school system right now. And because you're already matriculating towards your degree, you qualify to make their max, which is often $100 or some per day, as opposed to their minimum with no degree, which is like $50 to $70 per day. So that's very important to know that you can substitute teach, and that means you work when you feel like it. If you don't feel like teaching that day, just don't accept the assignment. Then they also have long-term sub positions too that come with a little bit higher pay, and they can give you some guarantee where you're at the same school every day. If a teacher's out on maternity leave or out for sickness or illness or injury or things like that. So lots of opportunities. We have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to share my screen one more time so you can kind of screenshot my contact information if you have more questions. I really appreciate your engagement today. And so I'm available anytime. Just keep in mind that I'm on Pacific time. So if you email me or contact me, I'm 3 hours behind you. But feel free to reach out to me via phone. Here's my number here, my email address. And you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at my business pages. And then we also have a professional development channel on YouTube called PMC Professional Development. So if you want to screenshot that with your computer or take a picture of it with your phone, but it will also be in a slide presentation that Mr. Milford is going to share with you. And then also, I'll send some other things for you to follow as well. My company also is in charge of the HBCU Drumline Talk and some of the other podcasts that you see pop up on Facebook and things like that. Are there any final questions or things that I did not cover?
Yes, I have a question. Obviously, we have a lot of questions in the group as far as money. Can you explain, I guess, the process of getting to that level? I know money is the main thing, the source of living, but can you explain to students that without great work ethic, that's not going to happen?
Yeah, it does take work ethic. You definitely have to be one that's dedicated. That's why I asked in the question, think about the student or musician you are. Do you go to class regularly? Because while it may seem minor now, that equates to, do you show up to work on time in the workforce? That equates to you, do you call out to work a lot? You know, whether it's, and even if your first job is not your main job in your career, you got to treat it with royalty. So you got to treat that part-time job with the same respect you treat your career. If you're always calling out because you don't feel like going to work, or if you're always halfway working through your shift, that speaks to work ethic. So that starts in college. Are you going to class? Even when you don't feel like it, you got to get up and push to go. Because when you're on the side of it that I'm on, where you have to get up and go because you have kids to take care of, or you have a spouse or a significant other to help support, that is very important to, you know, okay, I don't feel like going to work today, but I know if I don't go, it cuts into my paycheck, which cuts into me being able to feed my kids, which cuts into starting an argument with my significant other. So you got to make sure that you start now thinking in the mindset of professional. One of my good friends, Professor Johnny Lee Lane, is very respected in the percussion world. And he mentioned on a podcast that he did with the HBCU Drumline Talk the other day that he used to go to Southern University to class every day with a suit and tie and a briefcase because he was preparing for the job he wanted. And sometimes you have to prepare for the job you want. Am I saying you have to dress up every day? No, but you do need to carry yourself in a way that we can already see you in your professionalism. So that means being well-groomed. It doesn't matter what your hairstyle is, whether you have locks, whether you're close cut, just being well-groomed and taking care of yourself, okay? Making sure your clothes are ironed and you're presentable, that you're not wearing anything that's profane or negative, that's speaking negative about you. Whether you smoke or not, that's fine. Nobody needs to know that on your clothing. So you need to make sure that you're being presentable at all times. Like out here in Las Vegas, yeah, weed is legal out here. But does that mean that you should do it as a teacher? No. It does not mean that just because something is legal, you have to partake in it. Or even if you do, you need to make sure that that's something you do in the privacy of your own establishment. Whatever your habits are should not spill over into your career. You could have just tossed back a 40 before you walked into your classroom. Even though you shouldn't do that, nobody should really know that happened. You get what I'm saying? So be mindful of what you post on social media, how you take pictures with people. You should not be taking pictures with any weapons. You should not be taking pictures with your middle finger in the air, okay? Or things like that. Just be mindful of what you post on social media, because even if you delete it, it's not deleted from the web, and you'd be surprised in your background check what people pull up about you. Keep your record clean, keep yourself clean. And even if you have had some run-ins with some things that you're not too pleased about, it's always a way to get past that. It's always a way to grow and learn from that. So don't ever feel like you're counted out or that you've been eliminated from something just because you made a mishap or an immature decision in your previous years. Is always a way to get past that. And I always stress that, because people think that, oh, we just want to dwell on the bad. And I'm a proponent of, let's show you how you can get past this. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. As far as salary, you got to think too, you want to make a certain amount of money, but you got to think about FICA, you got to think about Medicare, you got to think about state taxes. So your 60,000, in order to bring home 60,000, you got to be making 80,000, because your 60,000 salary, you're only going to bring home 38,000 a year. So you got to really think about that in reality. And then cost of living too. Like, for example, Seattle, one of the most expensive cities in the entire country. You may go there and you may make 79,000 a year, 100,000 a year, but one house is $1.2 million. A house, a 3-bedroom house, is $800,000 in Seattle. 3-bedroom house. And in South Carolina, that's equivalent to a 1-bedroom apartment as far as the size. So, you just got to think about things like that as you're going. Okay. Carry yourself with dignity and pride, and represent yourselves, represent Allen University well. Understand that you represent more than yourself. You represent everything you're connected to. That means your brothers and sisters here on the call. That means that anyone in your band program, any organization you're affiliated with, your family, your friends, your community, and your church. You represent more than yourself. So you have to ask yourself, what would such and such think about me if I was doing X, Y, and Z, if I was dressed like X, Y, and Z, if I said X, Y, and Z. And if you always think with that mindset, you're going to do well in whatever you do. Any other questions?
I have a comment, Dr. Brock.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Thomas Spann, band director at Fisk University. I'm a percussionist. Me and Mr. Dr. He'll be almost Dr. Milford in the near future. But being Professor Milford, both were grads of Benedict College, where I still talk to my percussion teacher, me and Professor Milford. Dr. Daniels has been influential over the years. A lot of the things she's talking about, guys, is a lot of stuff that me and Professor Milford got hands-on with Dr. Sean Daniels. And the way that he gave it to us was straight. It was very blunt, and it was not sugar-coated. The way that Professor Milford talked to y'all, imagine that times 10 and 100. That's how our teacher was. They were hard on us. And the reason why they were hard on us, because they came from a school of thought that back in the 80s and 70s, civil rights was still going on. People were still being lynched, hanged, killed in Alabama. Where they went to school at Alabama State, Montgomery, it still was a lot of that stuff going on. So they had to be on point. And she mentioned Johnny Lee Lane, another good percussionist, a friend of ours. He's like the guru of, percussion and how it started and the HBCUs. He's one of those guys that people go to. But I remember having a conversation with him, same story. He said when he went to Southern University, he dressed like how he wanted to be. So that goes a long way. I'll be transparent with you all. Not to make a long story short, but I did have a comment, something you mentioned, and it came to mind. Recently, I went to a clothing store, and as a director of bands, it's a certain way that I have to dress. Not saying that I can't come in the band room looking like this. I can wear this, but I have to have some nice slacks on. I have to have some nice shoes on. My hair got to be groomed. I can't be looking crazy. I can't be smelling like alcohol or weed. I don't do none of that stuff. But I have to present my way. Number one, you're Black. And I'm gonna be real with you. You're Black, and you already got a strike against you because you're Black. So you gotta be on point. You gotta be 10 times ahead of your Caucasian, Asian, and European percussionists. I'm just keeping it real with you. So you have to be. That's why Professor Milford be on y'all a lot, and I be on my students at Fish as well, letting them know, hey, you need to join into this call. So you can just get some information, even though they're not majoring in music, but they're majoring in other things, but they can still utilize those tools to get those jobs. They may want to make beats on the side of being a doctor or being an engineer, being an entrepreneur. I have several streams of income, and that's why I'm getting my comments going to go into. Can you talk to them about multiple streams of income? Because I can't stress so much, because being a percussionist in this life is not easy. I'm gonna be real with you, it's not easy. When me and Mr. Milford started out, I was a substitute teacher in Metro Nashville Public Schools. My first job was at Nashville School of the Arts, where I taught about 1 day a week. And then I had other clients that I dealt with. I was already operating in a business mindset by the time I graduated from TSU. But I had to make it up in my mind, and Dr. Daniels got on me many times, like, you need to get a suit on and go get some interviews and find out who's hiring. So I did that. And two of the places that I went to with a suit and tie on, I got hired there. Volunteer State, I taught there for about 2-3 years. I left there and gained another job teaching at another academy. Fisk University, where I'm currently the director of bands. I went to Fisk University in 2010 with a full suit on, and it's hot outside, like almost 80 degrees. And I'm talking to the department chair. Hey man, I'm interested in teaching here. Do y'all have any positions open? I'm a music ed major. They did not have nothing open. 2 years after that, I got hired to play drums for the jazz band. That year after that, I was an adjunct professor. So you have to keep trying, keep pushing through, but you got to work towards that goal. You got to have multiple streams. So I'm going to let Dr. Brock take it from here and talk about multiple streams, because that's what I do for a living. For a living, right. I make beats. You can look me up right now on my website, and I have things that's out there that's worldwide with native instruments. For those who are producers, machine native instruments, I work with sounds.com. I have several projects with a producer right now where I have actual sound bites and different drum patterns and stuff that people are buying right now. You can go look me up, Professor Funk, and on sounds.com, And I'm advocating because I'm teaching you how you can do this thing.
Right.
And be able to have multiple streams and be able to really live, man. And she was right about that. To make that 60,000, you got to make 80, man. You got to make 80.
Indeed. Yeah, multiple streams. Like I said, in addition to teaching, I own my own company. This is something that I started the idea in 2011, but it really took off when I got to Las Vegas. But you really have to look at multiple streams of income and just using your talents in any way possible. And like I said, it's about, that tough love and just really, having them good mentors. I know my mentor was Mr. Harold Houghton, at Virginia State, and several others, Dr. O'Neill Sanford as well. But look at what your talents are, look at what you do well, and then say, hey, how can I make some money off of that? Whether it's giving private lessons, and you're going to college, you're going to be a professional in this. So you don't have to charge $25 an hour. You're studying music, you can charge $75 an hour, and they will pay it, especially in the Columbia area, because they're paying a piano player, a piano teacher, $100 an hour for a 30-minute lesson. You can charge $75, give them a better quality lesson over an hour, and the students will rack up. You can send it around your schedule and your availability. You don't have to have your degree in your hand. You already have more knowledge than the people you're going to be teaching. That's good enough. And you're studying music. So you are the expert in this area. You can make money right now giving private lessons, whether it's drum set lessons or single drum lessons, melodic percussion lessons, you name it. Just pick your strength in your area. If you want to start making beats, and like I said, start your own website or start saving your digital files now. If you make something, say great, you might forget it later. So record it and save it in a file, give it a fancy name or give it some name where you can remember what it was later, so that when you're ready to use it later, you already have it and you don't have to try to remember what it is you did. But yeah, multiple streams of income is very important. As a music educator, teachers in general, they used to call it moonlighting back in the day, which means that you had a second job or a part-time job. It's just musicians, I think we do it better because I think we're more talented than some of the other people out here that teach. So it's easy for us to find a way, whether it's church musician, club musician, whether it's playing at parties, retirement homes, or going around doing community service. There's so many ways you can generate additional income. And like I said, that tough love is important. I know we're not saying it to kind of signal people out or to make you hear the same, mom and pop speech all the time, but you really got to look at how you carry yourselves. And like I said, being blunt, we have to be direct with you and stop sugarcoating things. I used to tell my students the only loud I wanted to hear was in them dynamics in the music. So learning the jargon, you got to learn the jargon of what these people are doing out here, so, and then that sunglasses, I want no sun in that band room, you are high as I don't know what. So we want to make sure that, we're not trying to signal you out, whatever you're going through, we understand that, but at the same time, there's a time and place, and we want to let you know that you don't have to do that to get where you want to be, because it does affect you and affects your ability. So this isn't one of those speeches, get help today and stuff like that for those that may do it. It's not that at all. It's just saying that we're hip, and it's just a nature of band directors. It comes in Band Directors Handbook 101 that we already know everything that goes on with our students, whether you tell us or not. Is that innate thing that we get that's blessed upon us when we get our degrees as band directors, that we're psychic. We already know what you're doing before you did it, because we either been there, we didn't experience it, or we had someone that went through it and we had to witness it. So there's nothing you can do that we don't already know about. Okay, but that's my presentation for today. I know there's so many more questions. Big June, what do you have?
I have one question. Okay, so like I was the one who said something about the commercial and jingles and stuff, right? So yeah. My question is, where do I look for that at? Like, where do I get in tune to that? Like, who do I go to?
So all of your advertising companies, so Kellogg's, Johnson & Johnson, Palmolive, things like that. Anytime you see a commercial, look at the company that's doing the commercial, go to their website, go to Employment and Careers, or go to Inquiries and send them an email. My name is such and such and such. I would like more information as to how I can learn more about making jingles for your company. And someone will respond and direct you to their creative arts director. But don't ever be afraid to send an email. As soon as you see a commercial that you like and you want to learn more about working for that company, of course we talk about Sony and Warner Brothers and things like that. But look at Kit Kat, look at Toyota, Honda, look at, go around as you're riding through the community, look at the businesses in your community, and even stop in. If there's a car dealership, say, hey, do y'all have a commercial on TV right now? Do you currently have a jingle? Would you be interested in one? And then, you know, start working that way. Start with your local community, and then you might end up talking to someone who is part of a bigger franchise that can go out. I'm going to try to get the name for you, but I'm good friends with one of the owners of the McDonald's in Columbia, South Carolina. He owns 26 McDonald's. So he was an alumnus of, no, he owns 7 McDonald's, but he donated 26 uniforms to my program. But he still owns the McDonald's, and he's very big on helping students and helping education. He's in Columbia. I'm going to try to get his name and contact information. I'll send it to Professor Milford. But I'm almost certain that if you did some jingles for him, it will probably set them apart from the corporate McDonald's stuff and make it a little bit more personable for that area. So yeah, just start going around, driving around, and stopping in and asking people. The least they can say is, no, we don't have a commercial, or hey, I never thought about that before. So, and that's for anyone. If you want to say, hey, do you have a live band that plays at your restaurant? No, I never thought about that before. So just start riding around and asking questions. There's a lot of power in the tongue and just speaking up. You have not because you ask not. Okay, that's in the Bible. So make sure that you're getting out there and think outside the box. And if it's not been an avenue, create one. Okay, don't worry about sitting at someone else's table. Build your own table, especially as people of color. Build your own table and create your own opportunities. Any other questions? You all have been wonderful. I'm very excited to see you guys. It warms my heart to see so many men of color studying music and wanting to do big things in the industry and wanting to make good money. So you have my support as long as you're in school. I'm going to send Professor Milford and Professor Spann, I'm going to send both of you a package of items that I suggest, some worksheets and things to get them started on. And I will offer support. Just free support for, to get you all going on these types of things. I do offer a variety of other professional development workshops. I'm planning my schedule now, so I'll send that out to you. But anything that we can do to get these guys going in the right direction, to get them ready for graduation, I'll send you just a series of resources. You let me know what you're interested in, and I will put it together, general stuff and stuff that's specific to your representative institutions. But
All right, sounds
you
good.
again. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Students, can we unmute, please, and give Dr. Brock a big round of applause for this fantastic presentation? It was great.
Thank you.
Super.
Thank you. And I wish you all the best.
Females can do it too. Females can do it too, and she's doing it. All right. So can we, Dr. Brock, can you pull up your title of your first slide so that I can screenshot that, please?
Of course.
I have a quick question, if you don't mind.
I'm listening.
So I was a student that asked about Norfolk for graduate school. Mm-hmm. So through the website, I went to the website, didn't have the master's in teaching.
Oh, no. Don't go through the website, because the webmaster don't know what they're doing. I'm going to give you the direct contact to the grad school coordinator and to the people that can get you in. I picked Norfolk State because it was affordable. It didn't require the GRE. And when I saw that curriculum and asked them, could I push to get out of 3 semesters? They said, as long as I could handle the work, it was fine. So I'm going to give you the direct contact to the people I know who are over the grad program so that you can get directly in there. And what they don't tell you is that they have a rolling admissions in their grad school. So while they have deadlines, if you're interested in going, they'll help you even if you miss the deadline for the application. So I love that. I love the fact that I went there. I didn't go there for undergrad. I chose to go elsewhere, but their grad school is definitely top notch, great experience, no matter what track you decide to go into grad school. All 3 of the tracks they offer are top notch, and they produce some solid graduates. Every graduate that they produce out of that master's program has a job right now. Many of us have went on to get our doctorate degrees.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, can we sit up in the camera, please, and just smile? I'm going to screenshot this, please. Let me see if I can get this. On the count of 3, big smile, please. Ready, and. All right, super. Dr. Brock, we will be in touch because I have some more questions, and I'll share your email with my students because I'm sure they're going to just bug you to death And in fact, I didn't even know you was 3 hours. I thought you was still on the southeast. I'm
No,
sorry.
I slipped away. No, you're fine. I slipped away. I moved to Las Vegas last June and haven't looked back. My family's still out there, but I doubt I'll be moving back to the East Coast anytime soon.
Okay.
That offer got to be right.
Oh, okay,
So,
I got you.
I'm
I
telling, and
understand. I got
that's what I'm telling you guys. Like the West Coast is paying. West Coast, Texas pays well. Up north pays well, but you got to deal with cold and crime. So that's one thing to look at. But I'll give you more information on that. But I'm telling you, this West Coast thing, if they can't match what I'm making out here, there's no way I'm coming back that way.
There you have it. I understand that. But once again, we really, really appreciate you, and we will be in touch. Hopefully, we can get you back in the near future to come and discuss with another group of gentlemen. Hopefully, we have some more female students in the studio. But once again, you did a fantastic job, and thank you, thank you, thank you. We will be in touch.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm going to copy
you.
everything in the chat, and then I'll send you my responses in depth to all those questions so that you'll have it for your students.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys. You all have a blessed day.